Hi everyone, Mr. Wright here. I've just had a very good Saturday afternoon doing the Edexcel IGCSE paper 2H from January 23. So I hope you find this video walkthrough useful in preparing for your own IGCSE exams. You will find in the description a link that will enable you to download the question paper, so you can do the whole paper and then watch the video walkthrough, or you can do a question, watch the video walkthrough, do another question, and so on as you like. You will find as well the detail of grade boundaries and that sort of thing at the end of the film. So as I say, I hope you find the film useful. If you do find it useful, please tell me so by hitting the like button. And if you'd like to comment, then please do and I will respond. Good luck with the paper. Number one. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out the left-hand side and see if the answer I get is equal to the right-hand side. So I'm going to turn these into top heavy. That's 26 over 7 divided by 13 over 8. Now I'm going to change the sign, flip the fraction. Cancelling, 13 goes once, 13 goes twice. 2 eighths is 16 over 7, which gives me 2 2/7, which is what I have got in the question here. That's question 1 finished. Number 2, I've got to change a speed of 90 kilometers an hour into meters per second. Well, 90 kilometers an hour is 90,000 meters in an hour. So if I divide that by 60, I'll get how many meters in a minute. And so if I divide it by 60 again, I'll get how many meters in a second. And if I put that on my calculator, I get the answer 25 meters per second. And that is number 2 complete. Number 3. Now I know that all the numbers from 11 to 20 have got to fit into my diagram somewhere. I know that all the even numbers are going to be within circle A. I know that A intersection B is 12, 16 and 20. I'll put that in now, 12, 16 and 20. Oh, wait a minute, because A is all the even numbers, then I know that all the remaining even numbers must be just in A. So not 12, because I've done that already. 14, not 16, because I've done that already. 18, and not 20, because I've done that already. Right, so A is all even numbers, correct. A intersection B is 12, 16, and 20, correct. Now, what does this mean? A union B, well, that's the ones in A and B, A or B, across A and B there, but not those. Aha, so 17 and 19 are not in A or B, so they're there. So I'll cross those off my list, which leaves me just with this area here. And so 11 must be there, 13 must be there, and 15 must be there. That's 11, 13, and 15. And that's the Venn diagram complete. Question 4. Right, well, I've got a rectangle, so I know that AD is equal to BC. So I know that 5x minus 1 equals 3x plus 7.4. So I could solve that equation to find out what x is. See which side has the least x's and get rid of them. 2x minus 1 equals 7.4. Add 1 to both sides. 2x is 8.4. So x is 4.2. Right, now I could work out the width of the rectangle, couldn't I? That width there. Well, the width is going to be 5 times 4.2 minus 1, which is 21 minus 1. So the width is 20. So the perimeter of my rectangle then, I'll just write width there. So the perimeter is going to be 24 plus 20 plus 24 plus 20. The length all the way around the edge of the rectangle gives me an answer of 88 for the perimeter, and that's question 4 finished. Question 5. The weight of the cake is 2.75 correct to 2 decimal places. Write down the lower band of the weight. Well, if that's correct to 2 decimal places, then the lowest weight the cake could actually be is 2.745. Now the upper bound is 2.755. Okay. Penny has worked out this on her calculator and got that answer. Penny's answer is not sensible. Okay. By rounding each number to one significant figure, work out a suitable estimate to show her answer is not sensible. Well, it tells us to round each number to one significant figure. So instead of 81.3, I'm going to use 80. Instead of 59.2, I'm going to use 60. And instead of dividing by 1.9 squared, I'm going to divide by 2 squared. Well, 6 8's 48, so the top is 48 with 2 zeros, and the bottom is 4. 4800 divided by 4 is 1200. So my estimated answer is 1200, which is an awful long way from 13,000. So I've shown that her answer is not sensible. And that is question 5 complete. Question 6. I've got the point A, which is 6, 4, and I've got the point B, which is 17J, and I'm told their midpoint has those coordinates. Well, that's going to mean the midpoint of A and B is K15. Well, let's have a look at the midpoint of A and B. The midpoint of A and B is going to be the average of 6 and 17, the average x coordinate, and the average y coordinate. And we know that that is K, 15. So we know that 6 plus 17 over 2 is equal to K. Okay, K equals 6 plus 17 over 2. Well, on my calculator, and that gives me 11.5. So I found K. And it also means that 4 plus J over 2 is equal to 15. 4 plus J over 2 equals 15. Now that's just an equation. 4 plus J equals 30. So J is 26. So my answers are that J is 26 and K is 11.5. And that is question 6 done. Question 7, simultaneous equations. Right, I'm going to get the coefficients on x the same and then subtract my equations. I'm sure you might have a different way of doing it. And with any luck, if you did it a different way, you end up with the same solution as me. So I'm going to multiply the top equation by 2 to give me 10x in the top equation. And I'm going to multiply the bottom equation by 5 to give me 10x in the bottom equation. Top equation by 2, 10x plus 8y equals minus 4. Bottom equation by 5, 10x minus 5y equals 22. Right, now I'm going to subtract the equations. I'm going to write a subtraction sign here to help me not mess up my signs. 10x minus 10x is nothing. 8y minus 5y is 8y plus 5y, 13y. Minus 4 minus 22 is minus 26. Divide both sides by 13. Y is minus 2. Right, I'm going to use equation 1 now. I'm going to shove in y is minus 2. That gives me 5x minus 8 equals minus 2. Gives me 5x equals plus 8 to both sides, 6. So x is 6 over 5. And now I'm going to take equation 2. 2x minus y equals 4.4. I'm going to shove in the y and hope that I get the same answer for x I got before. Now minus 2 is plus 2. So that gives me that, minus 2 from both sides. 2x is 2.4. Divide both sides by 2. X is 1.2, which is the same as 6/5. So I know that I've got it correct. And my answer is x equals 6 over 5 and y equals minus 2. And that is question 7 complete. Question 8. Matteo is going to invest 5,000 Swiss francs for 2 years. He can invest his money in Bank G or Bank H. The total amount of interest he would receive at the end of the 2 years from Bank G is more than the amount of interest he'd receive at the end of 2 years from Bank H. How much more? And it's asking how much more is the interest. So So we might need to be careful here. Right, let's have a look at Bank G first of all. Bank G is going to get 1.6% per year compound interest. So he starts off with 5,000 Swiss francs. The multiplier is going to be 1.016, and he's investing for 2 years. So how much money will he have at the end of the 2 years? Well, the answer is he'll have 5,161.28. Okay. So how much interest has he received? He's received £161.28. Sorry, Swiss francs. Not pounds, 28 interest. Let's have a look at Bank H. Bank H, you simply invest your money for that 2 years, 5,000 Swiss francs, and you just get a one-off payment of 2.9% interest. So after that, he will have 5,145 Swiss francs. So the interest he's earned is 145. So let's have a think about how much more interest he'd have got in Bank G compared to Bank H. So that's the sum I have to do. And the answer on my calculator is that he would have got 16.28 Swiss francs more interest in Bank G than he got in Bank H. Question 9. Write down the value of this to the power of 0. Well, anything to the power of 0 has a value of 1. Simplify this. Well, let's write down what that means. It's 3a squared b to the 4 times 3a squared b to the 4 times 3a squared b to the 4. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. A squared times a squared times a squared is a to the 6, adding the powers. And b to the 4 times b to the 4 times b to the 4 is b to the 12. Right, factorise this expression. Well, what can I take out of both of those? 7, x squared and y squared. Which is going to leave me with a 2 to make the 14 and y squared to make the y to the 4. And then here I'm going to need a 3 to make the 21 and an x. And I can't factorise what's in the bracket any further. So that is my final answer. Okay. The diagram shows a straight line right down the equation of the line. Well, I reckon I can use the gradient and intercept, can't I? The gradient is minus 2, because when I go along 1, I go down 2, so it's y equals minus 2x. And the y-intercept is at plus 4, so it's y equals minus 2x plus 4. And that is question number 9 finished. Question 10. I've got an isosceles triangle with a base of 24. It says the perimeter is 54. Well, those two lengths are going to be the same, aren't they? So the perimeter is 24 plus 2x, and I know that equals 54. So 2x that must equal 30, and so x must be 15. So this side length is 15, and that side length is 15. Right, but I need to work out the area of the triangle. So I need to do the base, which I know, times the height. I don't know the height. But I suppose I could work it out, because I've got a right-angled triangle here. If I cut the big triangle in half, I've got 15 there and 12 there, and I have to work out the height there. So the height squared, using Pythagoras, is 15 squared minus 12 squared, which means that the height squared is 81, so square root that, and the height is 9. All right, so the area of the triangle is the base times the height divided by 2. And I can put that in my calculator, and I get the answer, 108 square centimetres. And that is question 10 done. Question 11. Here are 6 graphs. Complete the table below with the letter of the graph that could represent each equation. Write your answers on the dotted lines. Okay, well, let's have a look at this one first. I know in this one that when x is 0, y would be 5. Okay, so I need one that goes through 0, 5. Well, it's got to be a. But actually I can see that it's a anyway, because then as my x goes up, I take away from 5. Oh wait, that's a. Good. Right, let's have a look at the third one here. Y equals minus 2x cubed. Right, well I know that when x is 0, y is 0. So it has to have the point 0, 0 on it. So it's either f or c. Okay, now let's have a look at this one here. If x is positive, let's say that x is 1, then y would be minus 2 times 1 cubed. So y would be negative, wouldn't it? So if x is positive, y must be negative. So it must be graph f and not graph c. Okay, now I'm left with this one. Y equals minus 2 over x. Well, with any luck, you're aware that y equals 1 over x will look like graph E. That's y equals 1 over x. So y equals minus 1 over x will be that graph reflected in the x-axis. And y equals 2 minus 2 over x will look much the same. So that is going to be graph B. And there you have question 11 finished. Question 12. I've got a cumulative frequency graph here about the time each of 60 people took to go shopping. Here are my 60 people going up the y-axis, and this is their cumulative frequency. Use the graph to find an estimate for the median time. Well, the median time is going to be the time taken by the 30th person, more or less. So I'm going to find the 30th person. I'm going to use my ruler to draw a line across here, and then I'm going to draw my line down here, again with my ruler and pencil when I'm doing my IGCSE. And so I need to read off that number of minutes. So that is going to be 44 minutes, isn't it? 44. And part B, use a graph to find an estimate for the number of people who took longer than 55 minutes. Well, let's have a look. Here's 55 minutes. So again, use your ruler when you're doing your exam and your pencil. Okay, and so if I draw with my ruler and pencil all the way across here, I see that 48 people took less than 55 minutes. And of course, there are 60 people in all. So it must have been 12 people who took longer than 55 minutes. And that is question number 12 finished. Okay, question C here. Let's just write the cumulative frequencies here from the graph. Okay, and now I can work out the number in each group separately, simply by subtracting my running totals. And there you have it. That is the end of question 12. Question 13. Right, I've got an equation with fractions here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract together these two fractions. I'm going to put them under a common denominator of 20. So the first fraction I'm going to need to multiply top and bottom by 5. And the second fraction I'm going to need to multiply top and bottom by 4. And that's going to equal 4.3. So I might as well multiply everything by 20 here to give me 86. And then on the left-hand side I'll have this minus that. When I remove the bracket, I'll have to be careful with that negative outside the bracket. Minus 28 plus 4x equals 86. Tidy up the left-hand side. 9x minus 13 equals 86. 9x equals 99, adding 13 to both sides, so 9. So x is 11, dividing both sides by 9. Question 14. Right, I've got to work out the size of angle DCB. DCB, which is this one here. Now I can see that ADCB is a cyclic quadrilateral. So opposite angles add up to 180. So it must be 140. And the answer, the reason is that opposite angles in cyclic quadrilateral. Let's just say what that is. ADCB add to 180. Work out the size of angle ADO. ADO, it's this angle here I'm aiming at. Okay. Right. Now, I know, just by looking at this, that this angle here is 80 because it's double the angle on the edge, the angle at the centre. I know that OB is a radius, and that's the tangent, so 66 and this angle must together equal 90. So I know that that's 24. Now if this angle at the centre is 80, then this angle all the way around here is 360 minus 80, 280. And now, haven't I got a quadrilateral? I've got the angle at A, which is 40, the 24, the 280, and my mystery angle. So my mystery angle must be, so that is ADO, must be 360, the total number of degrees in a quadrilateral, minus 280, minus 40, minus 24, which gives me ADO of 16. And that is question 14 complete. Question 15. Here is a list giving the number of runs scored last week by 11 members of a cricket team A. Okay. The interquartile range of the number of runs scored last week by the 11 members of cricket team B was 42. Using a suitable calculation, write down one comparison between the number of runs scored by members of cricket team A and the number of runs scored by members of cricket team B. Right, well, we've already been told the interquartile range for cricket team B, so let's work out the interquartile range for cricket team A. Now, there are 11 players, so the middle one is the sixth, so that's the median. So the interquartile range, if I split the first half in half and the second half in half, the interquartile range for team A is 34 take away 4 is 30. So if I were to draw a comparison between the number of runs scored by members of cricket team A and the number of runs scored by members of cricket team B, I could say the interquartile range of team B was higher than the interquartile range of team A. There you are. That's a comparison. I could also say something like the runs for which team were more consistent. Let's have a look. Well, A's got less of an interquartile range, and so I could say the runs in team A were more consistent than the runs in team B. Runs in team B, but I don't have to say that latter one. I mean, the latter one would do okay instead of stating about the interquartile range being higher for team B than team A. But anyway, there's number 15 sorted out. Question 16. Right. I'm going to say that X is, I'm going to leave a bit of a gap here because I know in a moment I'm going to be multiplying X by something. There we go. That's X. Now, if I multiply X by 100, then what it's going to do is it's going to, here's my decimal point, 43 is going to appear here. Then I'm going to have 8, 3, 8, 3, 8, and you can see that my 8s and 3s are lined up. So now I can do the bottom line minus the top line. 99x is going to be 43.4, and then all the other columns knock each other out. So that means that x is equal to 43.4 over 99, which equals, multiply top and bottom by 10, 434 over 990, which equals 217 over 495 if I halve top and bottom. And that is question 16 done. Question 17a. Right, so I've got 8 root m plus, well, 49, root 49m is 7 root m minus root 9 root of 9m is 3 root m. So what does that equal? That's 15. That's 12 root m. So k must be 12. And that is 17a done. 17b. Aha, so I'm starting with 5 minus root 18 over 1 minus root 2. I'm going to rationalise the denominator by multiplying top and bottom by 1 plus root 2. Right, so my top's going to be 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times root 2 is 5 root 2. Minus root 18 times minus root 18 times 1 is minus root 18. And then I'm going to have minus root 18 multiplied by plus root 2. Well, that's going to be minus root 36, isn't it? All over. 1 times 1 is 1. My middle terms knock out. Minus root 2 times root 2 is 2. Okay. Now what's going to happen here to my numerator? Well, I've got 5 plus 5 root 2. Now this 18, I can take a 9 out of there. It's going to be 3 root 2 minus root 36 is 6. All over minus 1. Simplify the top now. I've got minus 1 plus 2 root 2 all over minus 1. So my final answer is going to be 1 minus 2 root 2. Okay, that's part B done, and that is the end of question 17. 18. Right. I've got to draw a histogram for this information, so I'm going to need to work out the class width. So the class width is 2, 1, 3, 3, and 5. And now I'm going to work out the frequency density. So that's going to be the frequency divided by the class width. It's 12 divided by 2. 7 divided by 1, 15 divided by 3, 12 divided by 3, 9 divided by 5. It's 1.1. No, it's not 1.4, it's 1.8. Beg your pardon. Right. Draw the histogram. Here we go. So, obviously you're going to use a ruler and a pencil when you're doing your paper. So between 0 and 2, got a frequency density of 6. Ruler, pencil. Okay, between 2 and 3, a frequency density of 7. Between 3 and 6, a frequency density of 5. There we go. Between 6 and 9, a frequency density of 4. And between 9 and 14, a frequency density of 1.8. Now be careful with your scale here, because I've got one little square's worth 0.2. So I'm going to come to here, just one square below 2 on the y-axis. Okay, and there is my histogram drawn. Right, one of the parcels that Pedro delivered on Monday is chosen at random. Using the information in the table, estimate the probability the parcel weighs more than 7 kilograms. Right, more than 7 kilograms. Well, all of these 9 weigh more than 7 kilograms. And here we've got a class width of 3. And so I guess we can assume that 2/3 of those ones will weigh more than 7. So how many are going to weigh more than 7? 9 plus 2/3 of the 12 in the class beneath that. So 17, we reckon, are going to weigh more than 7. That's 17 out of how many parcels? And if I add up all these frequencies, I can see that he delivered 55 parcels. So the answer is 17 over 55. And that is question 18. Here it is. Question 18 complete. Okay. Question 19. A and B are two similar vases, and the surface area of vase B is that fraction, the surface area of vase A. So the area scale factor, to go this way, is a multiplier of 25 over 64. That would mean that the linear scale factor is the square root of that, 5 over 8, which would mean that the volume scale factor was 5 over 8 cubed, which is 125 over 512. Right. So if I call the volume of vase A VA, then this equation here is telling me that VA minus VB is 541.8. And I know that VB is a certain fraction of VA, as I've worked out at the top. So I know I could say VA minus 125 over 512 times VA, because that's what VB is, equals 541.8. Okay, that means that 387 512ths of VA equals 541.8. Multiply both sides by 512 and divide both sides by 387, and I now know that VA is 716.8. And I'm asked for the volume of vase B, of course. So the volume of vase B will be 716.8 multiplied by that volume scale factor, 125 over 512, which gives me an answer of 175. So that is the volume of vase B. And that is question 19 done. Question 20. Solve these simultaneous equations. Well, I've got an expression for y here, so I'm simply going to substitute that expression into the bottom equation. So instead of x squared plus y squared equaling 34, I'm going to have x squared plus 7 minus 2x squared equals 34. So that's x squared plus 7 minus 2x multiplied by 7 minus 2x equals 34. So let's continue down this road. Right, let's multiply that out. 7 sevens are 49. 49, not 47. Minus 14x minus another 14x minus 2x times minus 2x plus 4x squared equals 34. Let's tidy that up. I've got 5x squared minus 28x plus 49 equals 34. This is a quadratic. Let's set it equal to 0. 5x squared minus 28x minusing 34 from both sides gives me 15 equals 0. Right, so I have to try and factorise this now. Well, it's likely to be a 5x and an x. I mean, I think it has to be that. It's only a certain number of things. It's got to be minus and minus. And I've got to multiply to 15. So I'm going to, well, that's why it's minus and minus and multiplies to plus, and it adds to a minus 28x. I put 5 there and 3 here, then I get minus 25x's from the outside, minus 3x's gives me minus 28x. So that's that factorised. So x will be 5 or 3/5. Now, of course, each of those x's has a corresponding y. If x is 5, then given that y equals 7 minus 2x, y will be 7 minus 10 minus 3. And if x is 3/5, then y will be 7 minus twice 3/5, which I make on my calculator to be 5 and 4/5. So my two answers are x equals 5, y equals minus 3, or x equals 3/5 and y is 5 and 4/5. That's question 20 complete. 21. The surface area of a sphere is 49 pi. Find the volume of the sphere. Well, I know that the surface area of a sphere is given by the formula pi r squared, because that's the formula at the front of the paper. So 4 times pi r squared equals 49 pi. Divide both sides by pi. 4r squared equals 49. Divide both sides by 4. R squared is 49 over 4. Square root both sides. R is 7 over 2. Right. So I know the radius of my sphere. And again, I'm now asked to find the volume, but I know the formula for the volume of a sphere because it's given to me at the front of the paper. So it's going to be 4/3 times pi times 7/2 cubed. Put that in your calculator carefully, and you'll get the answer 179.59 and so on. And so to the nearest integer, my answer is 180 cubic centimetres. And that's question 21 complete. Question 22, I need to solve this inequality. Right, well, I'm going to start by setting the inequality. I'm going to minus 35 from both sides, so I've got 0 on the right-hand side. Now, let's factorise this and see what happens. Not terribly easy to factorise. I'm going to start by looking for 6x and x solutions. 7 5s are 35, aren't they? If I do, I'm going to need to have one of them plus and one of them negative because they multiply to minus 35. If I try my 7 5, so I could have plus 7 there, that gives me 42 x's, so I'd need minus 5 here, and minus 5 times plus 7 is minus 35, so that works. Okay, so my solutions are going to be x is minus 7 or 5/6. Right, let's have a think about this function then. The function is going to cross the axes at x is minus 7 or x is 5/6, and it's got a positive x squared, so it's going to look like this. So when is that function going to be less than or equal to 0? Answer, when x lies between minus 7 and 5/6. So that is the answer to my inequality. And that is question 22 finished. 23, I've got this prism here and lots of measurements and angles given to me, and I'm asked to find the angle that AJ makes with the base. So I'm being asked to find the angle between that line, the line AJ, and this line along the base, which goes halfway across GH. Right, let's start by considering this triangle here. If I cut that across there, then you can see, now what shall I call this? I'll call this N here. You can see that I've got a triangle F to J down to N, right? Now I know that this angle here is 30 because I've got, that's 90 there, leaves me with 30. Okay, and I know that that's 8. Right, so a bit of trig here will tell me that Jn is 8 sine 30, which is 4. So that height is 4. Okay. Right. So how does that help me? Good question. That's 4 there. That means that I can find Fn, of course. So Fn, which incidentally is x, is, use a bit of Pythagoras, 8 squared minus 4 squared. So that is 4√3. The square root of 48. So now I know that x is 4√3. Okay. Right. How does that help me? Well, I know now the whole of the length up from the base to j, because this length here is 4√3. So the whole length is 4√3 plus 4. So I'm narrowing in on this blue triangle here. I'd really like to know what the length from A to, let me call that M, that midpoint, from what A to M is. Now I know this is now to here is 4√3. Okay, and I know that that's 12, don't I, there? Look at that. So I can find AM. AM is the hypotenuse of that horizontal right angle triangle there. So AM squared equals 4√3 squared plus 12 squared. Right, so I can sort that out using Pythagoras, and I get that AM is root 192. Now I'm in a position to draw the triangle from A to M, which I know is root 192, and then to j, so that's a, m, j, that is 4 plus 4 root 3, and here is aj, and what I'm being asked for in this question is that angle alpha. I can use tan now to find that angle, because tan of alpha will be the opposite, 4 plus 4 root 3 over the adjacent root 192. So there you go. Stick the right hand side in your calculator and you will get 0.788 inverse tan it, and you will get alpha is 38.26 dot dot dot. We're asked to give the answer to 3 significant figures, so alpha is 38.3 degrees. Question 24. I've got a graph here which is obviously related to the graph of sine x. So I'm going to start by drawing the graph of sine x, and then I can compare the two. Right, here we go. Okay, now, my black graph, when x equals 0, is simply a half higher. So I reckon that we're looking at y equals alpha sine x plus a half. Okay. Now, this point here, when x is 90, is at 3.5. Well, we know we're going to plus a half, so that's coming down to 3 now, which is 3 times 1. So that will tell me that the graph is y equals 3 sine x plus a half. So I reckon that A is 3 and B is a half. And that's the solution to question 24. Question 25. Right, we need to find the inverse function of this function. So I've got f of x equals 3x squared minus 12x plus 7, where x is less than or equal to 2. So I'm going to write that as y equals 3x squared minus 12x plus 7, and now I'm going to make x the subject of that. So I'm going to do that by completing the square on the right hand side. I really want to start with a unitary x squared, so I'm going to take out a 3. Okay, and now it's simply a question of completing the square here. So that's going to be x minus 2 squared, give me an extra 4, so I'll take that away, plus 7. Gives me y equals, now take that minus 4 out of the bracket, remembering of course to multiply it by 3. So now y equals 3 x minus 2 squared minus 5. You have to be quite practiced at completing the square. Add 5 to both sides, y plus 5 equals 3 lots of x minus 2 squared. So divide both sides by 3, x minus 2 squared equals y plus 5 over 3, square root both sides. Okay, and now add 2 to both sides. X equals 2 plus or minus, of course, because I've got 2 answers to this square root. Square root of y plus 5 over 3. So now I can express this in the form f to the minus 1 of x is going to be 2 plus or minus the square root of x plus 5 over 3. But be careful, because we have forgotten about this crucial piece of information at the top. X has got to be less than or equal to 2. And that means that my inverse function can only be the negative square root, because otherwise I would end up with an x of greater than 2. So my inverse function is this one only. And that is question number 25 complete. Question number 26, the last question. We're getting there at last. So let's have a look. We're going to put everything in base 2 and base 5, I think, for this question. So instead of 10 to the power of 4n, I'm going to write 2 times 5 to the power of 4n times, now I'm going to multiply out that bracket, 2 to the power of 3n squared minus 15n times 5 to the power, let's multiply that out as well, 2 minus 4n all over. Now I'm not going to write that as 20 squared. I'll write that as 2 times 2 times 5, because that's 20 squared, times 2 times 2 times 5. Okay, so what have I got on the top here? I've got 2 to the power of 4n times 5 to the power of 4n times 2 to the power of 3n squared minus 15n times 5 to the power of 2 minus 4n. And on the bottom here, I've got 2 to the power of 4 times 5 squared. Okay, right. Let's tidy up the top by adding these indices. So I'm going to have 2 to the power 3n squared minus 11n, that's the 4n minus the 15n. So that's what I've got in base 2. And then if I look at the 5s here, I've just got 5 squared, haven't I? Because 4n plus 2 minus 4n just gives me 5 to the power 2. And my denominator is 2 to the power 4 times 5 squared. Well, I can divide top and bottom by 5 squared. So now I've got 2 to the power of 3n squared minus 11n over 2 to the power 4. And I know that that equals 1 from the question, which means that those powers must be equal. So 3n squared minus 11n must equal 4. That's just a quadratic equation. Set it equal to 0. And now let's see if I can factorize it. It's going to have to be 3n and an n. Right, now I need to multiply to a negative, so 1 negative, 1 positive. 2 and 2, I don't like the look of that, looking at how that would multiply out. So I'm looking at 4 and 1. I think I'm going to have minus 11 here. So I put minus 4, that gives me minus 12n. And so that would have to be plus 1, which does work and give me minus 11n altogether. So my answers are that n is 4 or minus a third. And that is the end of question 26, and mercifully, the end of the paper. There it is, question 26. Right, grey boundary detail coming up next. Hi everyone, Mr. Wright here. Well done for making it through to the end of the film and the end of the paper. How did you find it? I thought it was a bit easier than its paper 1 partner, but nonetheless, it doesn't matter how I found it. How did you find it? What did you find easy? What did you find difficult? Please leave me any comments you'd like to in the comments. Perhaps you'd like to tell me what topics you'd like me to focus on next in my how-to films. In any case, if you found the video useful, please hit like. And as I say, leave me a comment and I'll respond. So here are the grey boundaries. Now, these are the total number of marks you'd need on both papers combined. And then you can work out what grade you would have got had you been sitting the paper that year. So for instance, if you got a total mark of 92 in both papers added up, you would have scored a grade 7. I'm sure you can work out what you got. And why not tell me what you got in the comments? Right, see you on the next film.